Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Way of Truth number 45. My name is Artem Boytsev. I'm a spiritual teacher. This is my website, so you're welcome to take a look. And this is a broadcast. It's a satsang that I do every 2 weeks with my students. It's a public open satsang, so everyone is allowed to join. So as I usually do in the beginning, hold on just 1 second. The best way to participate in this satsang is through StreamYard. So I'll post a link here on YouTube and Facebook. So it's broadcasted on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So if you follow this link, you will be able to go to the browser page for the event, and it's a browser-based software. All you need is a webcam, and I'll be able to bring you on stage, as you will see in a few moments, as I bring other guests on stage, and we can have a conversation. So I always encourage people to do that. But if for whatever reason you do not want to do that, you want to preserve your anonymity, or you don't have the means to speak to me live right now, then you can also submit comments. You can submit comments to both Facebook and YouTube. I'll be able to bring them on screen and address it the best way that I can. So with that, without further ado, let's get started. I have 3 people waiting in the guest room right now: Kevin, Roger, and Tilak. So we will start with Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Hi, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. So I had I guess I had 2 questions, but it's fine. We only get to one. Originally, I had a really crazy trip last week on mushrooms that really eye-opening and profound, and then felt great. And then now I'm like just like the worst feelings, and I mean it all started because went out to a concert with friends, and there was a girl that I met in the friend group. I've never met her before. And I don't know, I like her, but I didn't make a move. And this is like a very I think deep pattern where like I just feel a lot of doubt, tremendous amount of doubt and lack of love for myself. And it's really coming up strong right now in a way that it hasn't in like a long time. And I guess I feel like there's thoughts about I have to do something about it, but I don't think I really have to do something about it. I have to just like process it and feel it, I guess. But
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's usually a lot. Yeah, it's tough.
But yeah, I mean, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
So I mean, I guess I'm always looking for reassurance because it really doesn't seem like all I have to do is just sit with it.
Yeah, it seems like you have to do something about it. There's no way to fix it. Yeah, that's what both psychedelics and meditation tend to do. So it takes you deeper. It shows you. You can have a glimpse. You can have an experience of much deeper peace and much deeper presence. But at the same time, it kind of opens up. It loosens it. It loosens, and it makes it more visible, the remaining self-rejection, the remaining self-rejection, the remaining patterns that are coming from lack of self-love, and it's very painful to see.
Yeah, and I can't just like it doesn't seem like I can just snap my fingers and be like,
No,
start loving yourself, you know?
No. That's the paradox. Yeah, and actually, it's the ego can even use this idea, to uh, to manifest hatred towards yourself. Like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you love yourself? You just have to love you. You're failing at loving yourself. If you're hearing thoughts like that, that's this doesn't make them true. No. The paradox of flowering self love is that the very first thing that it does is it illuminates the existing self rejection, the existing self hatred. And there's probably uh, nothing worse than experiencing and seeing hatred towards oneself. It's really difficult and it's really sad. It's really sad. It's just tears just flow. Like how am I treating myself? How harsh and judgmental and abusive the mind is. So there's literally nothing to do about it other than feel it. And the less you are resistant to feeling it, the less you are afraid to see it, the easier it is to start making steps and changes in your behavior that reflect the loving attitude towards yourself than rejecting attitude towards yourself, or in this case, a more confident, daring attitude towards yourself. Like, okay, yeah, I will go and approach her, right? So there will come a time when, if it feels like it's too much, if it feels like it would be too much to approach it, there will come a time. So sooner or later, those insights that they start penetrating our behavior. Like the moment you feel capable to act outside of the self-rejection patterns, more in line with what you actually want and need, do that.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot. The view is a lot looser than it used to be. In terms of like I can just talk, connect normally and such. Um, and like I was talking with her and stuff. But I guess I have this image in my head of maybe from movies and just society where you have like as a guy I have to make every move, I have to be like super confident and
Yeah.
like smooth. And realistically, now that I think about it, like a lot of my friends who I've seen get in relationships, it's very casual. Like they don't have to be this Superman.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, yeah. There's you hit it on the spot, right? So there's this image uh, in society that courtship is manipulation, basically. That you
Yeah.
like you have to like be smooth. You have to play. You have to play the courtship. Kind of try to uh, predict what she needs to hear, what she likes to hear, show her what she wants to see, things like that. The reality is sometimes, oftentimes actually, just being real, like being open and vulnerable and just truthful can be the most attractive thing in the world. It can be totally disarming. There are a lot of women who would be uh, absolutely disarmed and uh, endeared by just a honest admission, for example, that you're uh, nervous to be talking to her. You know, if it's genuine, if it's not manipulative, it's very endearing. There is nothing more attractive than being real. You know,
Yeah. I
and
realized.
if she, for example, I'm sorry, just one second, I wanted to add, and if she is uh, disgusted, for example, by this admission, right? That, for example, you are nervous to be talking to her, and of course, there are some women who delusionally think that they need a very strong man, and any signs of weakness in man is really off-putting to her. Then it's actually much better to know it much sooner than later, because it's not going to work anyway. you know so I have, in my own history, I have been really unsuccessful with women, really unsuccessful. And then at my mid 30s and late 30s, I became really successful, and it's not because my appearance changed dramatically, although it did somewhat, but I've been just through so much suffering, divorces, like so much denial, women nature. I tend to look up to them, see them as some kind of better human beings than men, and put them on the pedestal. And then I got sorely disappointed. Like there was so much suffering, so much pain, uh, and it took me so long to like start to accept women for how they really are, just like all other people. And then only with that I sort of learned to love them, and I stopped more or less being afraid of being judged by them, and I started to just be honest, to just be real, to just be myself, without trying to put up a front. And that actually also allowed me to become genuinely interested in them, because while you're putting up a front, you cannot be interested in another individual. All your energy goes into like trying to show, to make them be interested in you. But there is nothing that makes you more interesting and attractive than authentic, real interest in them. And that's when paradoxically it became much easier for me. Uh, so yeah, it can be scary, it can be nerve-wracking, but it's also very real.
That's what I was feeling. Like the realness is good, but also, yeah, I think it's very manipulative. I feel massive amounts of fear at certain times, and the manipulation is like to come off a certain way.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
toxic. But yeah, I'm starting to see it, so it's good.
it is. Yeah, but it is so ingrained in our society. Almost everyone has it,
Yeah,
both women and men. Right, so
for
it's no
sure.
wonder, like there's courtship, there's like a few months of dating, and then people start living together, and then they're like, I didn't know this person at all because all I was doing is putting up this front and trying to make them like me, and then that's all they've been doing. And now that we live alone, we cannot sustain it any longer, and all sorts of trouble start. So it's a
Yeah.
tragedy, but yeah.
Could I mean, if we have time, could I ask you about the
Yeah,
trip or okay.
yeah, yeah, of course.
Basically what happened was it was actually a small amount of mushrooms, but it took me to a place that I went with 5-MeO DMT like
Mm,
4 years ago, 5 years ago. I had a really traumatic trip. I felt like I like dissolved into everything, and then I was everything. And then I was like, wait, what are other people? I freaked out. Got over that. But now I did these mushrooms, and I went to the same place where it felt like something collapsed in me. And I was like, wait, like, how am I going to talk to anyone? Or if it just felt like it felt like I really got to the core of what I am. Uh, and that's like, it felt like I'm actually nothing, and everything is appearing in me as
that's
nothing.
hmm
And that was trippy because I was going to call my friend because I started to panic. Before that, I started to panic, and I was about to call my friend. And then I was like, wait, I'm appearing as that. Who am I going to talk to? And I started freaking out. Um, and so I called him, and then that didn't really help. It helped a little bit, but then I was like still freaking out. And then I started to calm down because I was like, wait, if this is actually the nature of things, me freaking out about it, like this isn't going to help. So I started to like marinate in it, and uh, came to terms with it a little bit, and just bliss started to happen. And then, but then it's the weirdest thing because I'm talking to you, and I can talk to my friend, and it's so convincing that you're over there. But in that moment, on that trip, and before on really deep trips, it's totally clear that there's nobody else, but there's also not really me. But I
Yeah.
don't know how to like, I
uh,
don't know.
put them together. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, Here's the thing. Both are true. So the best way that I found uh, to explain it, so that the mind sort of is no longer tripping over it, but it would still be trippy on the level of experience. But basically, here's the thing: you're alone. You're completely alone in your experience, just like everyone else. But it doesn't mean that there are no other people. So that's why I actually don't like teachings that stop at there is no other. They're actually incomplete teachings. So, for example, very very late Osho, uh, when when his journey was more or less complete, only closer to the end of his life, started talking about how his body and spirit were finally one, how return to the body was complete, and how the complete enlightenment is just becoming a completely ordinary human being, right? So so unfortunately, most teachings kind of stop at there is no other. But the truth is uh, there is no other is true when it comes to experience, right? You cannot experience anyone else but yourself. This is true. And also, there is no psychological other. Meaning that, like, for example, if you're talking to another person and they say something and it arises some experience, it arises some pain, you are still experiencing yourself. You cannot experience anyone directly, right? So the way that we can interpret is that there is no other is that everything, like, you can look at it as that all of your experience, all of it without exception, is in your brain basically, and you are like you can say that you are the brain experiencing yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, so so everything that you can possibly experience in this world uh, is created by you, by the brain, for your own consumption, right?
Yeah.
This is true, right? So from that perspective, there's literally nobody out there, right? Like you are seeing my image, uh, but my image is not you. Oh, sorry, but my image on the screen is not me, right? My image on your screen is the image that your brain generated, right? So if you have, like, for example, uh, some differences in vision, if you were colorblind, it would be a different image, right? So you're actually looking at your own perception. You're looking at your own vision. So this applies to pretty much everything, right? So you're not seeing the actual world. You are seeing your perception, your brain's perception of the actual world, right? Does it mean that there is no actual world? No, of course not, right? So statements like, for example, when I close my eyes the world disappears, are actually very naive. They are true subjectively speaking. When you close your eyes, or when you fall asleep, there is no perception. So from that perspective, your perception of world disappears. But if you fall asleep and I can come to you and hit you with a stick and you wake up, then obviously the world didn't disappear, right? So that's why it's kind of both and neither. Psychologically, there is no other. So all kind of psychological pain and suffering uh, is created by the formation of a separate entity in the brain or in your consciousness, depending on how you want to look at it, that is engaged in emotional codependent relationship with other imaginary entities in the brain, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why the judgments hurt and stuff. So that's basically the bondage. That's the in Freudian terms, that's the ego and superego. Both exist in the brain, and they engage in the relationship in the brain. So in this terminology, enlightenment is the dissolution of both the ego and superego. That's why subjectively, phenomenologically, it may feel like you're merging with other people, and it can get really scary. And there are even some people who had some glimpses of those experiences, and they confused and they convinced that enlightenment is physically merging with other people. No, it's psychologically merging with other people, right? So even after all of this is said and done, and you're continuously and effortlessly in the same state that mushrooms or 5-MeO DMT took you, and there is no psychological other, there's peace, there's love and stuff like that. If you touch me, you will still feel some uh, sensation. The sensation is yours. You're the only one who's feeling it, right? But if I can touch you back, I also exist. I also exist, and it's the same for me. And it's also the same with animals, right? So you're looking at the dog is looking at you. The dog's vision of you is very different. The dog's senses, the nose is very different, right? You have no access to it experience. It has no access to your experience, but then you can touch each other still and interact. So the nature of reality includes both. And a much more accurate statement is that there is no psychological other. I mean, you can extend it to the physical sensation when you say that all physical sensations are also yours, but the really wrong extension of it, which is very often used in spirituality, and there's a period where it feels exactly like that, is that I'm completely alone. There is no world. There are no other people. That's basically solipsism, and it's wrong because it also does not. It has no connection to why enlightenment leads to uh, uh, lack of physical aggression, kindness, and stuff like that. Because like only the conditioning, only this separated self is convinced that something needs to be fixed through aggression. Only the pain of conditioning leads people to be cruel and callous. So if there really was no other, and if you were completely alone, then it absolutely wouldn't matter if other people died or lived. Like there would be no place for kindness, there would be no place for compassion. You see, so those kind of this sinking into this state uh, can be really trippy. But once you sink there sufficiently, then what I'm saying kind of becomes obvious. So even though you're alone in your experience, there's still other people, and they have similar experiences. They may have more suffering or less suffering. They may be kind of healthy individuals, just like you at this state, just like animals, or they may be burdened with the separation in the mind, with the psychological games in the mind, with the unprocessed conditioning and repressed emotions, but they still exist. But you can perceive them only through your senses. So from your perspective, there is no other. So it's kind of both. You see, it's both.
Yeah, that's cool. My mind said solipsism 5 years ago because I was trying to make sense of it and I was horrified. This time, it was horrifying at first, but I was like, wait, stop making stories about it.
Yeah.
And then it started to become blissful, and
Hmm.
I really can't explain it. But I think this is like the greatest fear and also where the greatest rewards are.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I'm
Yeah.
optimistic.
That is the greatest fear, because in the separated state, this fear is associated with death. So when we think about death in the separated state, we think about that, right?
Hmm.
But it's not real death, but kind of in the separated state is accumulated fear. And when we're coming back home, we experience this fear. And you're absolutely right. Don't worry about the narratives. Just invite the fear, and there's always bliss. There's always relaxation that is beyond fear.
Definitely. Cool. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, it's my pleasure. It was good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
All right, bye. Okay, so let me take a look. All right, so we have a few guests. So we have a few faces that I know, like Roger and Tilak, but I also have a few new faces, and I would like to give them precedence because, like you guys, you can schedule one-on-one meetings with me. There's Discord. We'll see if I have enough time. So I also do private meetings on my Discord, private satsangs every other week. Okay, so we have a person called uh, M. Hi.
Hey, I watched your video on that channel with the three guys.
Oh, right. You're Miriam.
No, I'm not Miriam, but
Right. Yeah,
I'm
but
I'm
I
the
saw a
person
comment.
who like typed on YouTube when
Yes. Well, it's nice to meet you.
You too. You too. This is great.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Well, did you just want to say hi, or do you?
I just came to listen. I don't really I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well,
I like your expression. I like your energy. I like what you're saying.
thank you.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you. I suspected it was you. I just didn't know if that's the Miriam that they refer to, because you also start with
No,
that.
yeah,
But
no.
yeah,
It,
I suspected it was you. So it's nice to see your face. It's good. It's good to see, to put a face next to
yeah.
a. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. You're welcome to join my Discord. It's good to meet you.
Yeah. I think I joined it. I don't see much on it. I don't know if it's
So yeah, the thing about the Discord, when you joined, were you taken directly to the welcome channel?
maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, you're not the first person who asks this question, so it's probably not very obvious. But the thing is, yeah, we need to work in making it obvious. But the thing is when you join by default, you only see two channels, two public channels. It's announcements for events and new content, where I post new content, videos, texts, and stuff. But actually, to participate in the community, and the welcome channel explains it, but it's probably not very obvious. You have to do two things. You have to make sure that your handle is your real first name. Like, you don't have to use the last name, but the
Okay.
real first name, and then your picture is a real picture, and then and then you you write an introduction into the introductions channel, and after moderation looks at your profile, then they give you access to all the discussion channels. So we did this because it's not just an anonymous internet community. I mean, we're a community of real people. I do retreats. People come visit me. So to make sure that we don't forget our humanity, there's real people talking about real stuff. So people talk on video with each other. So it's like anonymity is such a tremendous permission to be destructive for the ego. That's why we do it, so
Yeah.
that we don't forget that
I've
there are
seen it.
yes, that there's a real person on the
Uh,
screen. So that's why we do
So
that.
that means my name's going to be available for that other Discord too.
That's actually no. That this is actually a very important issue, and it was brought up. So there are two ways to deal with it. The first one is to pay for Discord Nitro. I think, and I don't remember how much it costs, but it allows you to have different profiles for different servers. So for every server,
Interesting.
you can set up your username and your picture.
I might
and
just do it anyway, but yeah.
and then another is create another Discord account.
Okay.
But it's been brought up before. So like people say, I'm a part of this other Discord server and I want to maintain anonymity, and we know it's an inconvenience, but it's just very, and it's also very difficult for me. Like if when my students interact, like it's very difficult for me to remember. Like there's this, I don't know, robot
Right.
24,
Yeah.
and then this, I can't, like, I remember faces
Yeah,
and
it's
names.
yeah.
Like I spoke to you and I remember you're John. Then it's easy for me. And if I don't know who you are, then it's like speaking
Yeah.
anew with every person. Yeah. So
So just like a little introduction, like who you
mhm.
are, age, like whatever, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you'll see other
You know.
people's introductions. Yeah. Like
Okay.
your history with spirituality, how you found this channel, like things like that. Just yeah, the introduction channel I think is also public.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for coming. All right. Okay. So now we have another person whose name is KP. Hi, KP.
Hi. Uh, yeah, it's there. So yeah, this is the first time I'm joining in person. I have heard
Welcome.
about you, but I have not actually uh, been in any of your videos. So this is the first time I'm actually interacting with you. So thank you for giving me this chance to be
Of
here.
course. No
Yeah.
problem.
So I have a question,
Mm.
and so recently I've been reading about self-realization. What are the techniques, different techniques that these spiritual readers, and I'm practicing those as well. But I'm practicing those like alone in my own space. And I already see the benefits of these in other aspects of my life when I go out there, interact with the world, uh, and I want to practice them more. But what I am seeing is it does take a lot of time of your life, which is great. I'm not complaining about it, but at the same time, you have to still do other things because you have to maintain certain your life, because it's just, I don't know what happens after self realization, but but practicing it actually takes a lot of time. So what I want to do is somehow integrate these techniques uh, in my daily activities, somehow kind of find the fusion to do that. While it's easy to do alone in your space, but how can I practice those in chaos, like while working, while being in a cafe, or kind of figuring that out. So my question was like, will this customization kind of hinder my path to self realization? Will it help? Is it not the right approach? what what challenges would I face uh, in this?
All wonderful questions. So let me share your thoughts on this one. Well, first of all, I can spare you the suspense. Even after self-realization, you still have to pay the bills and get some food, and no one's gonna feed you. You will still have to like somehow navigate in this world. I mean, it was a big disappointment for me. I thought, I thought that it was like, oh, we're gonna feed you now. No, no one gives a fuck. If you're self-realized or not, travesty.
True, that's, yeah. I don't know whether it would happen or not, but y- I don't know what will happen, but I still have to maintain this.
Something huge will happen to you,
uh,
tremendously huge, but no one will give a fuck. Okay, it will be the most important thing in the world for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the first thing. Now, with regards to kind of practice and combining it with life, you're right. It actually takes sometimes it takes a lot of time, and not only before self-realization, but afterwards, as we work on, so to speak, alignment or shadow work. It actually takes a lot of time. In fact, the uh, mythology about the previous lives and the reincarnation stems from that, because there's no kind of no serious evidence to suggest that reincarnation, the way that it is described in some spiritual traditions, well, like literally some memories preserving between bodies, is real, or it even makes any uh, mathematical sense. But the tragedy is that the conditioning of the ego is so deep, because it is established so early in childhood, and then uh, the hold on, and then what culture adds on top of that, right? Because as we study the culture, we study like how we got there, that when the conditioning is unraveling, it's completely normal to see what is perceived at the time as past lives. I mean, because it feels so ancient, and it is ancient in a way, because it started long time ago, and then it was passed through conditioning of upbringing from one generation to another generation. And so it feels so ancient that it experientially, subjectively, it literally feels like you are looking at your past lives, and I felt that too. So it's actually a manifestation of how deeply we are conditioned to live against ourselves. And so you've been conditioned this way since when your mind was the most plastic, and it was designed to basically soak everything like a sponge, and so you soaked up all the wrong advice and lies for society. It's just crazy, and then it takes a lot of time to actually go through it all and uncover. So you've been doing like this for you've been living like this for decades. It usually takes decades to come back. So the question of combining it with life thus is an important one. It's a pressing one. If you want to the kind of intense version of the journey, then the best thing is to do nothing but practice for quite some time. It will be the intense version. It will be much more energetically kind of difficult, even though the periods of difficulty will be present regardless, even if you try to balance it with life. And that is the historic function of monasteries. The historic function of a monastery, if it is led by an enlightened individual, which is almost never happens, but again, just like the historic function of religions is to bring people back to reality, and every founder of religion, be it Jesus or Gautama, was simply an enlightened individual, right? So the historic function of monasteries, ashrams, it is simply to help people first make the realization and also provide them a place free of distractions from the outer world, where they don't need to do much other than practice and take care of the basic living, basic realities of living, like eating and sleeping and taking care of the surroundings. So this is not an option for a lot of people. And also, it's perfectly possible to be on this journey while preserving the family. Of course, again, if you move away, like Gautama did, and you kind of do a very intense version of the practice, then it's going to be faster. But it doesn't mean that you cannot come back. Like, we're not losing the loved ones, we're not losing the family during this process. We're only losing our unhealthy attachment to the loved ones and to the family. We're losing the ways in which we're using and abusing them to cope with our own pain, but we're not losing our love for them or appreciation for them. So this all becomes very vividly, obviously visible in solitude. So that's why solitude is a huge intensifier of this. Even a deeper intensifier is psychedelics. But so that's why meditation works. You are in solitude and you start seeing your attachments. But it does not mean that at the end of the journey you don't come back to ordinary human life. So it's perfectly possible to balance it. It just takes longer, and it is more difficult to combine the worldly responsibility with this journey when the journey becomes intense. Like I have many students in the intense parts of the journey. They say, "How can I work? I go to work and I cry every day." Or like I had an opening and now I see so much hatred and callousness in everyone, and so much woundedness in me, or my own hatred and callousness, and it's just everywhere I go, it's pain, 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 pain. And so, for example, I myself, I was in a lucky, privileged situation. I mean, due to my prior work with Google, that I had some funds, so I could not work. I was able not to work. My wife went through a year or two where she was so paranoid. She was literally almost afraid to leave the house. So there could be some situations where working becomes difficult. And so from that perspective, I really, really wish that we had some modern equivalent of monasteries where you could just go and would get basically some room and broad, or what's it called, like broad and breakfast. I don't remember the exact expression, but basically just a room and something to eat, and you could like spend a few months there really working through through everything in a safe environment. Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that. So everyone is like on their own at this. I could like if I ran a big organization, I would build something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so so most people combine. So that's the difficulty. You asked about difficulty. So the difficulty on the journey is, room and board. Well, Drake said room and board. Room and broad would be like, I think room and broad would be almost what's the word? Sorry, English is not my native language. Obscene. Yeah. Okay. Room and board. Thank you, Drake. So that's about the difficulty. The difficulty is that it can be hard to function in the most intense periods of that. That's the difficulty. Now, but it's okay. It shouldn't scare you because it's still temporary, and there's literally nothing, like literally nothing, that feels better than coming home. I mean, there's no point. There's a point of the journey where you realize that everything that you felt so dear, your work, your career, even your family, nothing compares to that. Absolutely nothing. Right. So it's easy for me right now to say, well, no, I value my home, my family. I would not like to lose any of those important parts of my life. But that's because I am very kind of deeply established in this, and this happiness and peace and love is always with me. So I can pay attention to some smaller stuff. When I was back suffering, when I was back dreaming, when I was still seeking, any improvement at all that I could get in those areas would correspond to like 0.01% of the suffering that I routinely experienced. So many people do live temporarily, and even if you, I mean, the society, and even if you find yourself in periods where you cannot work and you'll have to take time off work, or even find someone to take care of you temporarily, you will not regret it. You will not regret it at the end. Okay, now that's about the difficulty. Now about the methods. You can absolutely practice the methods as part of your daily lives. I think that I read some time ago, a long time ago, some people made a website or a technique. They dubbed it meditation anytime, anywhere, and they're absolutely correct. So the same practice, the same meditative practice, can be applied to your waking experience. Of course, when you are consumed by a task, actually, the interesting part here is when you're truly consumed by a task, also time flies, and it's reminiscent to the state of flow that is effortlessly present in enlightenment. I mean, some people talk about the state of flow in the professional settings, so to speak. When you're working on the task that is interesting. But
I don't want to interrupt, but is the flow that you're talking about, is it is it like I thought that it was more of a mechanical state rather than a realization state, because what I'm trying, so when I try to practice it, when I'm doing task, I usually try to break that flow that I get into.
Well, the state of flow that I refer to, that people talk about in the context of work, is only reminiscent. It's not the same. It's only reminiscent. So the similarity here is when you're doing something that you are heavily consumed by. Let's say rock climbing. That's why people like rock climbing. It's also dangerous. So it's kind of so when you're doing something that you're heavily consumed by, you don't think about yourself. that's why it is similar. That's why it's so enjoyable, right? But once you stopped, of course, because nothing happened with the ego, it's a very temporary, and it's only reminiscent. It is of course a far cry from a completely light state, a far cry. But I mention it just because that's why people like it, basically, right? So of course, when you stop doing this, the ego comes back. Uh, so in the context of our conversation, I was going to say something else. I was going to say that if you're actually occupied with a task, like let's say your job and stuff, it's difficult to practice, and in some ways it's impossible if the task is mental, at least. If the task is physical, then it's actually a good opportunity to practice. But having said that, there are a lot of moments during the day where you're not occupied by a mental task, or your task is physical. Like, I don't know, you're sweeping the floor, washing the dishes, taking a walk, waiting for a bus, riding a taxi, uh, eating, by the way, also very physical. And all of this can be used as an opportunity to practice. So you can basically make any of these activities meditative. So all you need to do is to take your attention, take your awareness into the actual senses. So when you're eating, eat slow, and explore the sensations in the mouth. When you're walking, uh, take a look, notice the sensations with every step. Make a deliberate note to feel the air caressing your face, the warmth of the sun on your clothes. Even maybe how your clothes feel when they touch the body. We never pay attention to those. Now that's one part of practice. And another part of practice is when the emotional component comes up. And of course, when the emotional component comes up, you cannot do that. It's like when there's some anger or some fear or something, you really, like, even if you attempted to run away into the physical sensations, that would actually be spiritual bypassing, because that is the suffering coming up, and it needs your attention, it needs your heart. And the interesting thing about this practice of staying with the physical sensations, with the physicality of the experience, like paying attention, like, for example, on the warmth of water as you're washing your dishes, and getting closer and closer to the physical experience. The interesting side effect of that is that as you do this, and you spend more time in it, the ego tends to rebel. Like, hey, what about me? We need to think about me. And here's all of my emotions, and here's all of my fear, and here's all of my anxiety. You keep doing that, and now I will have to stop thinking about the future. I'm getting really scared. And so some of the interesting side effects, even of that practice, is that from time to time, there will come waves of increased emotional intensity. And at that point, you can no longer, you need to give the emotion your attention. So if you combine this two, if you remember this two, that both will be present, you can actually very effectively, it can be the equivalent of meditation every day for a few hours, right? So to summarize, when there's nothing significant going on, emotionally, energetically, unpleasantly in your body, uh, become closer to your physical sensations. Look at the sight itself, at the images itself that you see. Approach the sound itself. So go away from the narrative, oh, this is a bird, to the actual sound of the bird. Do the same thing with all of your sensations and stuff like that. But then when the suffering comes, then give direct attention to the suffering and allow yourself all the emotional expression, and the mind will be active, and that's okay. You see, and so through these waves, you can start slowly dissolving your conditioning and approaching the realization deeper and deeper and deeper, and the emotions may get more intense and more extreme, uh, and you also start noticing that the sensations, the underlying physical sensations of life, are also getting crisper, more enjoyable, more beautiful, because they're supposed to be they're supposed to be. I mean, if you look at a newborn child, it is completely obvious that for them, it is very interesting and beautiful, and they're enjoying their physical experience. But we get so bogged down by suffering, then we just stop paying attention to that. So practicing paying attention to that both makes you closer to that, and it has a side effect of sort of uncovering, illuminating the suffering that exists there, that prevents it from happening. And so you give attention to the suffering also, and let it run its course. So yes, you can do that.
Okay. Thanks for describing it. Let's see how it goes. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you for coming. All right. So then we have Roger Tillich. We have Lena. I don't think that we spoke before. Hi, Lena. Yep, you're on mute.
Hi. Yeah, Roger invited me to join the
yeah, Roger is also
meeting.
here, by the way.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have, but of course I kind of wanted to talk about something that's on my mind a lot, about like family betrayal, or I could talk about it maybe next time if yeah, if that's better.
Yeah, if it's a long conversation, please come next time.
Yeah.
I know it's a very important topic. Actually, I can just tell you a couple of things. I also have a few other people that I'd like to speak to, and I only have about 20 minutes. I would even say I would leave you with this, just to put in perspective how relatable what you're going to speak about is. I don't think it is possible to form an ego without some form of family betrayal. The formation of the ego is actually a result of betrayal. And it's not that our parents betray us because they are bad people, but they have been also betrayed themselves. So the self-rejection that we pass from generation to generation is a form. So whatever we're going to talk about next time, please know that it is not common. And even those people who are well adjusted, if they intuit that a greater suffering is possible for them, which is very easy to test with, like if they perceive their early childhood as a happy time, right? Because for me it's the same. I now feel the same but if they perceive their early childhood as a happy time, it means that they have also been subject to at least some form of family betrayal. So it's a completely universal topic. So I'm looking forward to talking about it in great detail next time. So come next time, and I'll push you first. I'll make you the first guest.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Okay, so now we have Roger. So someone has gone. Okay, Roger. Hi, Roger.
Hello.
Hey.
All right. So my question was about whether or not a completely enlightened being, as you describe it, could be further conditioned once they've reached that state. And I think embedded in that question is kind of what is conditioning and what is complete enlightenment.
Okay. So my general understanding is no. At the very least, not without violence or threats of violence. So the conditioning are automatic programs, automatic reactive patterns of behavior, which are a result of expectations from society and are connected to emotional suppression. So they're not as much connected to reality. That's why, the struggling inner child. So we're all adults, but in some ways we all behave like children. So basically, most of the human population is adults plagued by the issues of attachment. Those are childhood issues. I mean, in a healthy society, in a healthy development of the individual, the only attachment, which is the attachment to one's parents, needs to be broken around the time when an organism begins to feed for itself. And that's what we observe in animals. It's not pleasant for a child. No chick wants to be pushed out of the nest. But that's like the only like enlightenment that happens, right? So you were dependent on your parents, and then you're not dependent, and you go over the fear of independence, and then you're not conditioned any longer. You're a free organism. You're a free individual. Now with humans, it's very different, right? So psychologically, humans are basically most people are psychologically we're children that never grow up. We can become extremely powerful. We can become very intelligent, but psychologically we have the same insecurities. We have the same attachment, the need for approval and validation, just like in childhood, the need for security. Psychological security, and that's also why we're so cruel and callous. So the absolute bulk of conditioning is that. Then there are, of course, a lot of people who say, "Oh, I mean, everything is conditioning, nothing exists, blah blah blah." I saw it, and they would tell you that everything is conditioning, the body is conditioning, and all is conditioning. But if these people experience any kind of psychological suffering or any issues of attachments, any pain, any emotional displeasure, so to speak, in interacting with other people, this is the body, the physicality of the body runs way, way, way deeper than the emotional material. So all of this is, in my view, confusion, or at the very least, they should thoroughly dissolve the conditioning associated with attachment and relationships with other people. That is all created in deep childhood, before making claims about whether the conditioning associated with the physical body can be dissolved. So usually it's the opposite, because the ego is always like, "Oh, I'm very enlightened," and it's not even just people nowadays. The same dynamics can be seen in words of kind of even historical masters. It's like the very first thing that the ego pronounces when it realizes is, "I'm not the body." What they actually mean is, "I'm not the ego." But and it can very easily seen, because they still eat, they poop, and they behave as if they're the body. When you're not the ego, you stop behaving as if you're the ego, but they still behave as if they're the body. So that's why I say the reason I describe all that is that I don't know if conditioning can still be created with violence and threats of violence. Is actually quite possible, but in the absence of violence and threats of violence, an enlightened mind cannot take new conditioning, because conditioning is also self-deceit. So actually, for that reason, that I think that even the answer to the violence and threats of violence is still no. So, like, if you can imagine someone's being, but if we take the extreme case, right? If you can imagine someone being tortured to say what someone wants to say, just like in, let's say, 1984 by George Orwell, when they kind of brainwash the guy, and I think that even though it would be extraordinarily painful, I would still probably wager that the enlightened mind would say what is expected of them without forgetting that it's a lie, right? So the real conditioning is when the child behaves as it's expected of him, and then they forget that it's a lie, right? And the reason it happens is that biologically, at this stage, we are programmed to soak all of the information from our caregivers and from the adults because biologically, naturally, the idea is that they always have your best interest at heart. But of course, if they don't have your best interest at heart, then when you soak in this information, then you're going to have a compartmentalized mind, a suffering mind. You're going to believe things that aren't true. So I don't think that a mind that stopped believing things that aren't true can start again, right? Because there is literally no adaptiveness to it. You see, you can say that from the child's perspective. That's why I say, the bulk of the condition, like 90% of it, is the formation years. It's like the first, like a lot of it, even before you can start speaking. You can learn to speak. That's why in psychedelic trips on meditation, people say, I have experienced pain that feels like it's like pre-verbal. It is pre-verbal because the child who's like 1 or 2 years old, if the parents get annoyed by them or display anger and things like that, they do not understand the language, but they understand what anger is. Like every animal understands when it's threatened, right? So of course a lot of conditioning is pre-verbal. So from the nature's perspective, when you're a child, it's actually adaptive to soak it all in. But when you're an adult, it's maladaptive, right? It's the reality is that believing anything that isn't true is maladaptive. Like even if you're being tortured, it's adaptive to lie. If they want you like to say, war is peace. What was that in 1984? War is peace, ignorance, and bliss was something, right? And until you say that, they're going to torture you. It is adaptive to lie, but it's maladaptive to forget that you lie. It's maladaptive to actually start believing it yourself, right? So from that perspective, I don't think that it's possible. So it's a one-way road, actually. From my perspective, after a certain point, society does not bring you more conditioning. It illuminates the remaining conditioning, and there are teachers who say that society keeps kind of brings its conditioning, and you kind of have to continue practicing and clear them. I disagree with these teachers. I think that they just still haven't reached that point, because it is about self-deceit most of all, right? And the reason we end up in this web of self-deceit is because when this web is weaved, we are too little to even have the capacity to suspect that what we're told is not true, and our parents or greater society or caregivers does not always have a best interest at heart, and we need to learn to think for ourselves. I mean, come on, like we're talking about but by nature we are helpless, and we need to be cared for at this age.
Is it okay if I ask a quick follow-up? Does that imply then that there's some meaningful difference between a fully enlightened human mind and a wild animal mind? Where I think you've said in the past that wild animals.
Yeah, there's no meaningful difference. I mean, like, think about it. People say that that the enlightened state is a union with all life, a union with nature, the union with existence, right? And yet they would also make some ridiculous statements like only humans can get enlightened. I mean, come on. like from my perspective, so I saw it very clearly. To me, the source of my kindness and love to all living beings and to animals specifically is not some sort of divine message that I received, like you should love animals, but the realization that we are absolutely the same. I look at the cat and I see two legs, one mouth. It eats, it poops, it experiences pain, it doesn't want to die. The same things, all the same things, But now, of course, when I look at the human society, I don't see a rational animal. I see animals that are plagued by unresolved pain, and they are irrationally cruel and callous. So it's also why enlightenment does not eliminate the possibility for violence in life, or death, or pain, or destruction. Right? It only eliminates irrational cruelty and violence, for which we have no reason for. And one doesn't have to be a genius to look at the human society, and our society, and say that it is saturated with irrational cruelty and violence, for which there is no reason. Right? When we That's why enlightenment as a return to reason, not enlightenment of the heart, but as enlightenment as return to reason, actually worked. Like the period of enlightenment, historic period of enlightenment, return to reason. Or as Aristotle said, the law is a reason free of passion. Right? So people have intuited for a long time that what we call passions makes us do stupid things. Right? But the dynamic of the society return to this is the same as the dynamic for the individual. In the individual, first the mind awakens, the heart is still sleeping. Right? So enlightenment is understood on the intellectual level, but completely unembodied. The heart is cruel, callous, vain, and so that's why there are so many abusive spiritual teachers. Then there's a journey back to the heart, which is strictly speaking simply illuminating and processing all of the pain of conditioning that has been accumulated for years. And then you're both reasonable and kind. and they're kind of the same, right? Because every cruelty coming from passion is also dims your reason. But on the level of society, we found back the reason during the period of scientific enlightenment, and even that is still fought against. And we are only beginning to open our hearts to each other at this stage. So we're kind of on the collective level, we're very, very early into this process. It's like, it may be, if we don't destroy ourselves, it may be centuries before we arrive at a more or less sane society.
When you say we're all the same deep down, what is it that's same about us? Because I feel like in reading your other answers that you've kind of destroyed all concepts of like consciousness and oneness, and like what's left.
Every living organism wants to live, consumes energy as food. All life consumes energy as food. All life wants to survive. It experiences pain. So basically, everybody has, almost every animal, even insects, they have eyes, legs, mouths, asses out of which they poop, and they all want to survive. And everyone is like that. Everyone is like that, right? So if I understand that my cat is exactly like that, just like me, right? Then and my organism, of course, is perfection to me. Right? Why would I hate any part of my organism? It is all made up to help me survive, right? So her body is also perfection. Its body is also perfection to it, right? Why would I? How could I not disrespect this animal? It's the same. It's the same as disrespecting myself, right? Why would I bring unnecessary pain onto it? You know, how could it possibly be pleasurable to make it suffer? Right? It means that I would think that it deserves the pain just for being an animal trying to survive. But I'm also an animal trying to survive. Does it mean I deserve it? Right? So all life is fundamentally very similar experiences. I mean, our experience of our senses may differ tremendously. Like I cannot imagine what it feels like to have a nose which is 10,000 times more sensitive than mine. It's like the whole, like I'm talking about dogs. It's like the whole world of information opens up, right? But they cannot imagine, for example, the world of information that opens up to me in different way. Like for example, through some things that it cannot do, but I can. Like intellectually, for example, right? And I'm sure we can come up with some physical examples of what dogs would find interesting, let's say, in our experience. But fundamentally, both of us want to feel good. We want to eat, we want to be warm, and we both are afraid of animals that are bigger than us. We both don't want to get into pain, and we both would be ready to use violence to protect ourselves. I mean, physically, not from like an insult or something, but I mean for real, and of course we both on some level don't care what other people, what other animals think. We only care how they behave, right? So and if nothing threatens the dog and nothing threatens me, then we're both happy, right? So I love them dearly, not because of some divine order, but because they're literally the same as me. They are me with a different nose and a different hands, and I can say that the same even about a snake or any insect. I mean, they're me with different eyes and different ears, but this difference is nothing compared to this fundamental beingness of life. You see, you can say that it's because we have the same consciousness, but I mean, I think it goes much deeper than that. You can some people say consciousness penetrates everything. Some people can say AI is conscious. I cannot love robots or conscious rocks the same way that I can love an animal. And that's also why there's love is also based on similarity. There's somewhat less love, let's say, to trees, for example, than animals. Of course, there's still love. I would never hurt a tree without a reason, right? But their conscious experience, which of course exists, is quite different, much more removed from mine than even that of an insect, right? So it is kind of cutting a tree down, even though I would never do that without a good reason, and it kind of still pained me. And I had like a period where I would literally cry every time I would see people cutting trees down, because I also saw that they do it for like the stupid reason of, oh, it would look cleaner. I mean, you're killing a living thing, but still, I mean, imagining cutting a tree down is not the same as imagining cutting a cat in half. Why? Because it's much closer to you, right? So enlightenment is the realization of such profound similarity of all living beings, and such profound similarity between all animals, that the differences we think that exist between us are so puny. It's crazy. So the separated state is just seeing the world upside down. Yeah, what's important is what color you are, or what's important is what kind of a person you are. What's important is how much money you make or how you look, right? And just the fact that you have a heart, I mean the physical pump, and you have stomach, and I have stomach, and you have blood in your veins, and I have blood in your veins. That's not important. That's the most important thing, And it even runs more fundamental than that. Like and insects don't have blood, but still, I mean, they have eyes. They still need to eat. They have a conscious experience. So it's this fundamental similarity You see, it's the reversal of what's important, what's really important, what is similar between us all, and what is actually just some variations, and with that also comes the proper priorities in life, because the proper priority, the well-being is the most important thing, not some ideas of grandiosity or legacy or pride or honor, for which people are ready to kill each other. The very basic things like the well-being of the body, the health, they are the most important, right? So and with that we start treating each other humanely, we should start treating animals humanely. So it's a very, very deep intimacy with all living organisms, all living beings, because you literally see that there's not much difference. Not much difference.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, my friend. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I'm running out of time, unfortunately, guys. Today we have great attendance. 50 people watch the Satsangs. I rarely see these numbers. Thank you, everybody who coming. So, Max, I see you. Simon, hello. I can see you. You're in the guest room. Hi, I can see you waving, but unfortunately, I don't have the time to bring. Please come next time. So, Lena, please also come next time. There's also Stephen. Please also come next time. I don't know if it's the same Stephen, but if it is, I remember you, of course. Then we also have some questions which I didn't have time to address. Like Thomas asked me to talk about Trump capitalism, the current American social lens. I would love to talk about it, Thomas, but I don't have the time today. So please, if it's not too hard, please come to the next satsang and submit the same question. And I try to give precedence to people who come in person. So if you want to really make sure that I address it, then please also just join. But even if you don't want to join, if you submitted like the very first thing, I just didn't see it because it's been late into the set. But if you submitted the very first thing, then I will see it and I will remember it, because it's a very good topic and I would like to talk about it, of course. Yes, so some other questions from Rezenchi. I'm sorry, I probably butchered that name. Kasper says, thank you for your service. You must welcome. Unity says, got engaged today. Congratulations. Okay, so so that's about it. I would just like to ask for a few things. So first of all, please like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to my channel. All of this helps. All of this helps more people who are authentic seekers, who are or finders, or undergoing the spiritual transformation to find it, to find not only me but also my Discord community, which is filled of people who are undergoing the transformation, where we learn to relate to each other, to understand each other, to look at our own pain, to also approach each other's pain with compassion. It's a beautiful community where we practice to give love and receive love. So there are a lot of suffering people who would benefit greatly from this community. So please promote my work if you can. And also I would like to ask you to, if you are in a position to, then please support me financially. We are still very, very far away from me being able to earn a living. For the very first 5 years, all my income from teaching covered 1% to 2% of my expenses. Now it's about 10-15%, but it's still a far cry. I'm still living off my savings. So I have a Patreon account, which is, I think, $400 something a month. We're trying to hit 500, so you can subscribe to my Patreon, and you can also do one-time or monthly PayPal donations. So if you are in a position to do that, then please do that. Anything helps. Even if it's $1, it helps. You see, because if it's $1 and 100 people, that's already $100. So the goal is to make sure that I can pay off my bills, and then we can try to. Ultimately, we want to build a retreat center, and like if the organization grows, hopefully, if it happens, like but if it grows to significant size, then we should build more of those kind of monastery-like structures that I spoke before today. And that's it. So let me just post some links for joining the community. So let me post and bring them on screen. So the community, as I mentioned, requires a real first name and a photo. So it's a Discord community. You can join it here. The link for the support is right here. And then sometime this spring we'll also have a retreat in Northern California. So if you are in the US, or you can fly from Europe, we also do retreats in Europe occasionally. Like last time we did in August, and we'll probably do one next year. Yeah. Forgot just one thing. Yeah, and please, you can also schedule. One-on-one meetings with me. So that's the link. So there are meetings. There are options if you're financially struggling. There are options for free meetings. Then there are options for $25 meetings. And then if you do have financial means to contribute, then there are like multiple tiers, all the way from like $100 to like $500 if you're rich. or like well off significantly. So remember though that it's. Like the reason that it's set up this way is that I have many people who cannot pay anything. So if you do like I have, if you do set up the tire that is proportional to your income, then it helps to pay for someone else's session that cannot pay. And we have a few people who are truly financially well off. And even though they don't schedule a lot of meetings with me, but when they do, they select the appropriate tier, and I'm very grateful to them because it helps me to speak to other people. All right, so there was a beautiful satsang today. Thank you all for your questions. Lovely to see many new faces. Especially, I love seeing female faces. I'm trying to maintain a good ratio of our communities. On the retreats, we'll always try to go for 50-50 because women find it harder to relate to men find it harder to relate to women. There is something to be said about having all female retreats or all male retreats, so that's kind of a different genre. But if we have a mixed gender ratio, that I always like it to have 50-50. So always beautiful to see female faces. I'm very happy. Thank you all for coming. Kasper says yes, European retreat, please. Yeah, maybe this summer. All right, so that's it. Thank you all again. Love you very much. Hope to see you beautiful faces more. Hope to meet you all in person. So thank you. Bye.